Hey everyone, it's Danny. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are making patty choux. We're making profiteroles, but the first recipe that we're making is patty choux. Please excuse my voice. I've been sick all week, so it's a little bit raspy. This recipe is really quick, really easy, and you won't want to buy profiteroles from the store again because these are fantastic and really cheap to make. So the first thing I'm going to start off with is half a cup of water. All the ingredients are listed down in the description box. So if you want a list of ingredients, head down there and grab the ingredients. I have 60 grams of butter. And the last thing we're going to do at this step is put in a pinch of salt. So I'm just going to put in a little pinch of salt. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to put this over a medium heat and we're going to allow the butter to melt into the water. And once we come back, we will get on with step 2. Alright, so the butter has melted into the water. The last thing we are going to do is add our flour. So here I have 60 grams of plain flour and I'm just going to dump this straight into our water. We're going to want to work a little bit fast at this point. The flour is going to absorb all of that butter and all of that water, and we are going to cook it until it forms a ball in our pan. You just want to keep mixing, just keep on mixing, otherwise if you let it go at this point it is going to burn at the bottom. So what you're wanting to do is just keep on mixing until all of that all of the roux is what it's called, comes away from the sides and the bottom of the pan and forms a ball. You're wanting to cook out the rawness of that flour. It takes about a minute, and once it forms a ball we can turn this off and move this into another bowl. You see how it's starting to chase my spatula around the saucepan? Alright, we are done. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to move this into a separate bowl and then we're going to get on with part 3. Okay, so before we get to piping these onto our tray, the last thing that we need to add is 2 eggs. So we need to add those in one at a time. Now, when you add in the eggs, it is going to look super weird. It's going to look like it's going to split on you. Just keep going. That's the way this works. It gets worse before it gets better. So I cooled the mixture for about 5 minutes so that it wouldn't scramble the eggs once you put them in. And you'll see what's happening. It kind of scrambles it because the liquid to paste ratio is off, so you kind of have to get them nice and emulsified, which is what I'm doing. And now egg number 2. You kind of go through the same thing every time you add an egg, where it splits and then you just have to fight with it a little bit just to get it all emulsified and ready to go. At this point I'm going to let you know that my oven is on 180 degrees Celsius, or I believe that's 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And you'll want your oven to be preheated, so I just turned it on about 10 minutes before I started making this recipe. You want to bake these in a hot oven. What happens with cream puffs is it relies on the steam that's being made from the water and the butter that we added to this recipe to give them the lift and the rise. So a hot oven is always necessary when you're making profiteroles. We have just finished making this mixture. Now you have 2 ways of doing this. You can put all of this into a piping bag and pipe them out into circles, well, into circles, not into circles, into little mounds on your baking sheet. If you do not have a piping bag, I'm going to show you what to do, because not everyone is going to have a piping bag or have easy access to a piping bag, or have to go and buy piping bags to make this recipe. My mum has been making this recipe for years. I tend to use a piping bag, she tends to use 2 spoons, and they always work out perfectly. So whichever way you want to do it, that's the way that you can go with this. So let's get prepped to start not to pipe them because I'm not going to pipe them today, to put them onto our baking sheet and get them ready for baking. Alright, so I've got my baking tray that I've lined with a piece of baking parchment, and I have myself 2 spoons. So let me just adjust the camera a little bit so that you can see how I'm divvying it out. So I'm just grabbing one of my spoons, putting it into the mixture. These are going to rise significantly, so you don't want to make it huge. I'm using about a tablespoon of mixture, and then all I'm going to do is just plop it onto my baking sheet, just like that. And you're just going to want to keep doing that until you've filled up the entire baking sheet. Don't put them too close together because, like I said, these will puff up into nice big cream puffs. So you don't want them in the oven to then start touching each other. You do want to make them fairly evenly sized, so if you find that one is smaller than another, you can just add a little bit more on. I'm going to show you how to tap down some of these peaks at the very end so that you don't get little burn bits on top. Once you have formed all of your profiteroles, you might see that some have these peaks on top. Now, if we don't press those down, they're going to burn in the oven because we have to bake them at a higher temperature than normal to get them nice and puffy. So here what I have is a little bowl of water, and all I'm going to do is going to dip my finger into the water. Please clean your hands before you do this. And then just go anywhere that you find a peak, just use your fingertip with a little bit of water and just press that down. Now, if you don't want to use your fingers, then you can find another way of doing this. I haven't found anything better than using my finger dipped in water. It's completely up to you. Now that I have those all tapped down, we are going to put them into the oven and we are going to allow them to bake. They're going to take about 45 minutes in the oven. I usually have a look at them about halfway through once they've gotten that beautiful lift, and turn the oven down about 20 to 30 degrees just to get them nice and dried out, because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for them to puff up, get nice and golden brown, and then dry out so that we can go in once they're baked and fill them with a custard or whipped cream or whatever you want to put in there. So hopefully I can show you that part. If I can't, I will tell you what I did at the end of the video once these are baked. So I've just put them in the oven and I'll see you once they're done. So our profiteroles have been baked. I baked them at the 180 degrees and then turned it down about 10 degrees 20 minutes in. They are beautiful and perfect. I'm going to pick one up right now and show you. They have tripled, quadrupled in size. I got 11 of them. I think I made them a little bit on the smaller side because I usually get 10. But this is what they look like. When they're in the oven, what you're looking out for is for them to be dry. So sometimes these cracks are the last to dry off, and if you still see little beads of moisture, you need to wait until that is gone and all of the cracks are set where the profiterole has expanded. If you don't do that, as soon as you pull them out of the oven, they will become flat as pancakes. So that's one thing to be mindful of. Mine took 50 minutes in the end, so 20 minutes on 180 degrees and then another 30 minutes on 165, 170. So I'm going to fill these with whipped cream that I've whipped and sweetened with a little bit of icing sugar and some vanilla essence. You can fill them with custard, whipped cream, chocolate mousse, whatever kind of filling that you like. And you can also make them sweet or savory. I've never actually made them savory, but I know that in the books that I've read, you can definitely make a savory profiterole. So I'm going to fill these now. Depending on where I'm taking them, sometimes I will actually poke a hole in the bottom and pipe whatever filling I'm using into them. Today I'm going to show you how to do it really easily, so you don't need a piping bag. As long as you can get access to a spoon, you will be able to fill these. I'm just using a serrated knife, and what I'm going to do is about 1/3 in, I'm just going to cut the top off. And I can hear how dry they are. When you open them up, you will see that they have really puffed up. Now, it's up to you whether you want to remove this so that it can be full of whipped cream, completely up to you. Otherwise, you can just fill it and it'll collapse that a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to cut all of my profiteroles open. And once we've done that, we're gonna get to filling. So I've filled just about all of my profiteroles now, and I'm going to show you how I'm filling mine. So like I said, I was just cutting off the tops. I did go ahead and take the inside out just with a teaspoon, and with another teaspoon I'm just getting some of the filling and I'm just bouncing it in there so it fills all the nooks and crannies, because the last thing that you want is a profiterole that doesn't have any filling in there. So I like to overfill them just like that, and then put its little hat on. So the last thing that I'm going to do to the profiteroles is I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of icing sugar on top, and that's these ones done. Very easy, very simple. And here we are with the last step, the icing sugar. What you want to do now is put these into the fridge until you're ready to serve them, because there's fresh cream in there. And I hope you make these. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like my channel, please consider subscribing. You can click on the link down below, like, comment, and I'll see you next time for another frugal recipe on Do It Frugal. Bye!